So have you been trying to do a BRRRR deal, a BRRRR, right? Where you buy a property, you're gonna fix it up, rent it, and then refinance, but you're not sure exactly how to execute, or you're not sure about the numbers behind it? Well, in this video, I'm gonna do a case study out of one of my latest BRRRR deals that I personally did with my partners. And I'm gonna show you exactly how we did it and how we're actually almost spent very little rehab money and still created enough value to refinance almost all of our down payment back out. So if you stick around, I'll show you guys exactly everything that went into this project, including how we found the property, how we financed the property, what we did to stabilize the property, and you'll learn exactly the roadmap you need to take if you're gonna try and take on a BRRRR or BRRRR deal. So stick around and stay tuned. What's going on, guys? My name's Lior and I'm a real estate investor out of Boston. And as I said, I'm excited to share with you this case study of my latest BRRRR deal that I did here in Boston, where we stabilized a building and are now in the process of refinancing and getting most of the money right back out of the building. Now, before I get into it, if this is your first time on this channel, just make sure to subscribe and smash that button to this channel. It helps me a ton, helps me put out more content for you guys and get these ideas out to more and more people. So if this is your first time and you haven't already subscribed, make sure to smash that button. So let's get right into it, right? So in this video, I'm literally gonna take you from step A all the way to step Z on everything we did on this BRRRR deal so you guys can see exactly what happened, the value we identified, how we went about and actually executing it, and now we're in our future steps with this property. So let me start by giving you a couple of details about the property. The way we actually identified the property, I actually cold called the owner. We had a couple of conversations and eventually he told me he would consider an offer, right? And the building was actually in pretty good condition. It was a 4-unit building. All 2-bedroom units, very kind of bread and butter. And they were all leased out by Section 8 tenants well under market. Now, if you watch any of my other videos, you know a lot of my portfolio is Section 8, so I'm very familiar with how it works, how to negotiate with Section 8, etc. So it really did not scare me off. Plus, it was a really amazing area within Boston. It's a neighborhood that's experienced a ton of development, a ton of growth, and that I'm very high on. So, between that and the value we saw in being able to increase the rent, we decided to go and attack this deal. So let me explain to you guys now the financing behind the deal, how we actually put all the pieces in place. So first, on the mortgage side, right? We got a commercial mortgage. We went to a local bank within Boston that was interested in doing the deal. And they were able to fund 80% of the purchase price, as well as also fund a small construction budget of about $50,000. Now, I said the units were in pretty good condition, and they were. I really just asked for that money in case we had some turnover with the tenants, and I needed to go in, maybe buff some kitchens, buff some floors, baths, that kind of thing. It was really pretty minor scope of work. So the bank financed 80% of the acquisition. They also financed 100% of that construction budget, which was $50,000. Now, in terms of the down payment, right, we still needed to come up with about 20% down. We actually ended up partnering with capital partners, right? And so we brought in about just under $250,000 of equity, I call it equity, right, from private investors who essentially came in on the deal and they essentially partnered with us, right? We were the operators. We brought in the mortgage, we brought the deal, we're gonna execute in the business plan, and they funded the equity. In return, they got a certain percentage of the building that they owned for it. Now, the other thing that's really nice about working with a commercial lender, instead of maybe something like a residential bank or a hard money lender, is with a commercial lender, we actually got very, very attractive terms. So not only do we get 80% of the acquisition price finance, but we got a fantastic interest rate, just at about 4%, which for a commercial mortgage is absolutely fantastic. Plus, we also got 12 months of interest-only payments, right? So that meant for the full first year, we did not have to make any principal payments. It was only interest, which relieved a lot of pressure, right? Because again, we walked into this building with pretty low rents. So the fact that we only had to make interest payments to the bank helped with our monthly cash flows, and we were actually able to stack away a little cash every month, even with the really low rents that we had already in the building. So once we closed on it, it came down to execute on the business plan. And I've done similar projects before, and my strategy for this was pretty simple. I was gonna go into each unit and see if I could essentially get the tenant to sign off on a potential rent increase to Section 8, right? Because the way Section 8 works, at least here in Massachusetts, is I could file for a rent increase directly to Section 8, but I would need the tenant's signature and authorization in order to do that. So what I did was I decided to play really, really nice with the new tenants, right? So I basically knocked on each unit's doors and said, hey, I'm the new owner. Would love to see what I can do for you in terms of, are there any renovations you wanted? Anything minor like new appliances, new paint? And each unit kind of had little asks, right? Someone asked for a new toilet, someone asked to paint a little bit, someone asked for a new fridge. It really was super, super minor work, but that action of going up to them and saying, hey, I'm the new owner, what can I do to help you, really created a strong relationship between me and the new tenants, right? And what ended up happening over the course of the next 3 to 6 months is one by one, I would go to each tenant and say, hey, look, we did these fixes for you. You're probably aware you're not paying market rent right now. We're gonna go negotiate with Section 8. All I ask is that you authorize this and allow us to do that. And one by one, each tenant obviously did that. They all understood that they were paying quite low rent for the Boston area. And they all over the course of the year signed off on this authorization, which allowed me to go back to Section 8. And then with Section 8, it was pretty straightforward. I was able to show them, look, you guys are paying X amount of dollars for this kind of zip code. Right now we're getting well below that. Can we please bump that up? And, over time, I eventually got 4 yeses, right? So I was able to stabilize each of these units over to full market rent over the course of the first year. So to give you guys some harder numbers behind the story, right? So when we first bought the building, the total gross monthly rent roll was just about $5,100 per month between all 4 units. So you can see on average, I think, it was, we were collecting somewhere around $1,200 per unit. And once we got the building fully stabilized, we actually almost doubled that rent roll. And today, and it's currently at this time of shooting, it's month 11 in this project, we are collecting $9,000. So you can see almost 2x that rent roll just by playing nice and negotiating, playing nice with the tenants and then negotiating with Section 8 to get those rent increases. Again, the beautiful part of this project was, remember, I had also asked for $50,000 in construction in case I had some tenants that were gonna maybe put up a battle, or maybe they decided they were gonna just leave the apartment and go find something else, right? I was ready to go in for some tenants to leave and essentially clean up the units. But the beautiful part of this plan, of the way it played out, was I didn't even need to do that. All the tenants wanted to stay. They all liked the building. They didn't really have any issues. They just wanted some really small, minor touch-ups that the previous landlord just didn't do. And by doing that, they authorized they gave me authorization to go renegotiate the rents. And I never pulled down a construction draw from our construction budget that we had initially asked for from the lender. And the nice thing is too, once we got all these 4 units stabilized prior to that 1 year mark, if you remember, I told you on my mortgage, I had interest only for the payments for the first 12 months, right? So as of today, we've got a fully stabilized building and we're actually producing a ton of cash flow right now every single month, way more than I even anticipated, right? Because I did not think we were gonna be able to stabilize that building that quickly. So we've actually been producing a ton of extra cash flow every single month. And once we hit that 12-month mark and it hits month 13, we're just gonna be in that scenario that we had pictured and idealized, right? Which is gonna be a fully, our mortgage payments are gonna be fully interest and principal, but we're gonna be at our max gross rent roll, and the building is still gonna produce fantastic cash flow. Now, in terms of the refinance and the new valuation process, so right now we're getting that building, appraised and valued. With that $9,000 per month gross rent roll, I do think that building's worth somewhere around 1.1 to 1.2 million. We had bought the building for $925,000. So you can see right there just how much value we created from just negotiations with Section 8, right? Again, we didn't really spend any significant amounts of money on construction. So our all-in cost was right around that $925,000. But now we had that building fully leased out at market rents. And we're, like I said, probably worth somewhere around $1.1 to $1.2 million. Now, what we're gonna do once we're finished up the refinance process, if we do a 75% cash out refinance, I think I can get about somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 back of cash, depending on exactly where the bank values the building. Once I have that, that will be almost enough to return the full amount I borrowed from the investors up front, right? So I can return them almost 100% of that money. They're gonna still maintain their position, right? So they own cumulatively about 50% of the building. So even once I return them the cash, they're still gonna maintain that 50% ownership. So they'll just get their cash back, and they'll still continue to receive monthly cash flow checks, since the building is still gonna be producing monthly cash flow. So they're gonna be pretty happy, I think, with the way it's played out. So hopefully this gives you guys a little bit more color and context in terms of how the BRRRR strategy works and how you can use it really to grow, to build ton of wealth, build ton of cash flow. You know, it really is a win-win for all parties involved. Obviously, as the operators, you know, we're sitting on a great building. The private investors that came in, they invested their cash. They're gonna get a big chunk of it back. They're still gonna maintain their position in the building, and they're gonna continue to receive monthly checks as we move forward. So hopefully this gives you guys context onto the possibilities that the BRRRR strategy can lend itself to. And if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, just shoot them below and I will help you out.